Hello YouTube, welcome back to the conservatory. In today's episode we're going to look at stripping down the carbs and put them in the ultrasonic cleaner, give them a damn good clean out and then reassemble them. So what we've got on the workbench is I've got 4 little tubs, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and they correspond to each carb. Carb 1, carb 2, carb 3 and carb 4. Generally, when you're working on anything with a motorbike, the normal standard is that carb or cylinder number 1, carb number 1 is always on the far left hand side as you work on the bikes, and that's always the standard sort of way of looking at things. That way, if you talk to any mechanic, he knows carb 2 or cylinder number 2, he knows exactly which one you're looking at. So it may seem a bit excessive having 4 little containers, one for each carb, but I kind of like to work on the principle that what came out of carb 1 goes back in carb 1. And the reason for that is parts do tend to wear into each other. There's also another reason, and that is there are subtle little differences between some of the carbs. For example, the choke plunger on carb 3 is longer than all the others. So by putting it in box number 3, I know it's got to go back on that carb. And there we go. So let's get started. So the first thing I like to do is just take all the ancillary components off, things like the choke mechanism. Done that. I'm going to take the cable mount off next. Now this is the one where I actually did a bit of a bodge on the bike previously to get a non-standard throttle cable to work, hence you've got these silly little piers. Normally you wouldn't have those, it would just be screwed directly to the carb top. So I'm going to have to source some more screws to replace these, but I'm sure I've got some in the garage somewhere. And I'm going to put that in box number 2, so I know it goes on carb number 2. Next thing we want to remove is the idle screw. Now before you do it, it is worth putting a mark on it, which we have here, and then we're just going to unscrew it and count the number of turns. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I know if I reassemble it and then screw it in by 12 turns, we should have the idle speed set where it was originally, and we should therefore be about right. Okay, the next thing I like to do is take the carb tops off. And the reason for taking these off first is that on a lot of later bikes, more modern sports bikes, and even the NC29, the carb tops are made of plastic, and if you're not careful, when you've got the carbs this way up and you're trying to fight with some stubborn screws here, you can actually break them. In fact, Suzuki's are the worst because they actually have a little plastic nipple sticking up that the vacuum takeoffs go on for balancing them, and you can snap those off if you're not careful. So we'll take these off and get them out of harm's way first. Now, underneath these caps is the slide and a spring, so just keep your thumb on the top, otherwise the cap has a tendency to fly off. And there's our spring, there's the cap, and I'm just going to take the diaphragm out. So inside the diaphragm is the actual needle, and this is what meters the flow of fuel through the main jet. So we're going to want to clean that, and inside here there's a little plastic cap, so just give it a quarter turn and out comes the needle, complete with a washer. Just make sure you don't lose the washer. So I'm going to put that in the mesh pot, so that all the internals can go in the ultrasonic cleaner together. But so I know that that is the one for carb number 1. Right, so just carry on removing carb tops. So I will probably speed this bit up while we're doing it. Now for some reason, there we go, the washer had actually stuck inside the slide. Okay, so that is the last of the slides and the needles out. So now we'll turn our attention to the float bowls. So try and keep it in the right orientation all the time, so you always know which is 1 and which is 4. So some of these screws are looking a little bit chewed up. We might have to look at replacing some of those. And there's the inside of the carbs. You can see there's quite a bit of crud and dirt sitting in the bottom. Also, you can see I've got this green O-ring on here, and the reason for that is these carbs were rebuilt a couple of years ago, and I did put all new O-rings and seals in there from Litec in Thailand. In this situation I am going to reuse all the O-rings, but normally I'd replace them with new, but I know they're not that old, so no point. Right, let's start taking the internals out. So we just slide this pin out, or at least we will do once taking the cover off the neighbouring carb. So the first thing I'm going to slide out is the pin, holds the float in place, and then take the float out, and with the float will come the needle valve. So 7mm spanner. And we're going to take out the main jet. And then the main jet holder. It's not looking too bad in there actually. One thing to watch out for with the jets is that they're made of brass, so make sure you use a screwdriver that is a good fit, otherwise you can end up chewing the ends of the jets. Alright, just need a 10mm socket. And we'll take out the float housing, complete with its mesh filter and the aluminium washer. So this is a classic example of two parts that wear together. You've got the needle valve sits in there and it goes up and down all the time, so keep them together. Right, now do the same for the other carbs. Now, here's a really good example of a screw that's way too chewed up to use. So, the easy way to get it out is take your mole grips, and put them on. Make sure that the fixed jaw is at the back. And there it is. Like I said, definitely going to be replacing these screws when we rebuild it all. But I'll keep them in the tubs just so I can measure the length. Right, that's all the internals done. You can see what's just fallen out of the carbs. So now we're going to take the rail off and we'll start splitting the carbs. What I tend to do is do one carb at a time. So take the rail off there. And also I'm going to take the choke mechanism off as we go along. So put that in carb number 4. And while I'm at it, I'm just going to loosen all of these. Right, so if we stand the carbs up like this, should be able to just slide this carb off, but when you do, watch out for the springs. So there's a spring there, and there is a spring on the adjusting, on the balancing mechanism the other side. Something like that. So there's the spring, goes there. Actually belongs on carb 3, so I'm going to put that in with carb 3. And the choke mechanism spring, carb 4. That's the bit that was causing all the grief, and that's the linkage to feed the fuel into the carb. Don't know how well we can see this, but these are the adjusting springs I was telling you about. Now these are the screws that actually set your carb balancing. It doesn't matter about how we take them out, because we're going to have to reset every bench set the carbs when we're finished assembling them. Now the choke plunger. Again, watch out for the spring and try not to drop everything. last thing we need to take out is the mixture screw. And again, we'll reset that to factory specs when it comes time to reassemble. So you have the actual screw, a small spring, and there should be a washer and an O-ring in the bottom, which I'm just going to fish out. Because you can guarantee if we leave them in there, they will get lost. Now I'm going to put these in some little plastic Ziploc bags so I don't lose them. Sorry about that. And it just so happens you have a bag of Ziploc bags. These ones are all a bit big. I've got some smaller ones somewhere. So if you just bear with me, I'm just going to go and grab those and then we'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I found some more suitably sized bags. And like I said, I'm going to put the O-ring and the washer in a bag so we don't lose them. Like I said, normally I would actually replace these as part of the rebuild kit, but I know these O-rings are only about 2 years old. Okay, so that is everything removed from that carb, and now it is just a case of working your way along the bank of carbs, removing each one and all its associated parts. And just make sure that everything goes back or goes in the right containers. For each carb. There you can see the choke plunger, carb number 3. You can see it's quite a bit longer. Than the other ones. Right, well, I think we'll stop the video there for a while. I'll dismantle these 2 carbs and then we'll come back when it's time to get everything into the ultrasonic cleaner. Right, so the carbs are all stripped down. Here we have the ultrasonic cleaner. So, what exactly is an ultrasonic cleaner? Basically, although it looks like a chip fryer, it's a vat, it's got a heater element in it to heat up the water, and it is just ordinary water in here. You can get some cleaning solutions to add to it, but I'm just going to use the water as it is with a bit of the carb cleaning solution in. Underneath the tray with the water, there are a couple of transducers, and what they do is they create very high-pitched, high frequency, high-pitched sound, which creates a whole series of micro bubbles that just work their way through. So whilst I've been getting the ultrasonic cleaner ready, I have had each of the carb bits soaking in a solution of carb cleaner. And obviously if you haven't got an ultrasonic cleaner, then really this is the best you can hope for, is give them a good clean with the carb cleaner. So something like that stuff there. And so they've had each set of carb components had about 10 minutes soaking. We're just going to transfer our little pots into the ultrasonic cleaner. I'm also going to put the float bowls in. You can see how disgusting they are inside. And then I'm going to set this running, and while that's running I'm going to get busy with the degreaser and the brush. Just go around cleaning up the carb bodies, the choke mechanism and a few other bits and pieces. This will run for a maximum of 29 minutes at a time, and I usually find that you need at least 2, generally 3 sessions, so about an hour and a half for that. Once they're done, I'm going to put the carb bodies themselves in, give them a couple of sessions, and in the next video we shall look at how spangly, shiny and clean they are, hopefully, and we'll look at the reassembly of the carbs. So let's hit the go button, and it'll make a horrible racket, but until then, see you next time.